On one of the islands of the Malay archipelago, a group of pirates, having just looted a private yacht, is resting after a successful raid. One of the bandits goes to relieve himself and finds a strange iron mask in the bushes. Curious, the man investigates the surroundings and stumbles upon a cave. While exploring it, he suddenly falls through a hidden hole in the floor into a network of underground tunnels. Sometime later, a group of mercenaries lands on the island of Una Una to explore a former Japanese military bunker from World War II. The client of the expedition is Warren Price, the son of a millionaire who brought along his girlfriend, Su Ling. The mercenaries take the journey seriously, knowing pirates are active in these waters. However, one of them, Sergeant Papa Snake, decides to prank his comrades by scaring them with an old skull found in the bushes. Price is outraged by his behavior, as Captain Tino Prawa, the group's leader, assured him that his people were true professionals. The captain is forced to reprimand the sergeant. Soon, Price finds the old bunker and prepares to descend into it, but Su Ling refuses to follow him and promises to wait on the surface. Price rushes to the entrance, unaware that former military engineer Stanley, who became a mercenary and joined Captain Prawa's team on the orders of Price's father, is mocking him. In addition to Stanley, the expedition includes a Japanese female scientist named Ri, who accompanies Warren Price into the bunker. Inside, they find decayed bones and rusted weapons. Ri attempts to identify a soldier who died many years ago, while Price amuses himself with an old rifle, pretending to be a sharpshooter. Meanwhile, Stanley tries to get Captain Prawa to reveal what exactly Price hopes to find on the island. But Prawa knows nothing other than that his job is to protect the young man. The engineer grows uneasy due to rumors about pirates, but the captain assures him that his men can handle them. After inspecting the small bunker, Price realizes it is not what he was looking for, and the team sets out to explore the entire island. Soon, the group reaches a quarry, at the far end of which a large iron door is visible. Price orders them to proceed toward it. Stanley explains that they are looking for an abandoned colonial-era mine that the Japanese repurposed for their needs. But first, Stanley must inspect the structure for safety. Ri joins him, explaining that she wants to understand that period of her country's history. Stanley states that a soldier is not simply a person. He must be re-engineered so that an ordinary man begins killing his own kind out of duty and obedience. A soldier, he says, is first and foremost a weapon, and he too was once such a weapon. While Stanley inspects the bunker, Captain Prawa orders everyone not to stray too far, and he proves to be right. The group is attacked. The mercenaries fire back but realize they cannot fight off a numerically superior enemy and are forced to take shelter in the bunker. There, they become trapped after one of the attackers throws a grenade into the mine, injuring Ario and causing a cave-in. The young man receives aid, but the exit is blocked and there is no communication. The question arises as to who attacked them and why. They direct the question at Price, and under pressure, he is forced to admit that an expedition led by his father's company discovered a similar bunker on an island near Sumatra a couple of years ago. Encoded messages were found there, and Price, working with Ri, tried to decipher them. He speculated that they referred to Yamashita's gold, rumored to be hidden in a mine on one of the islands. But aside from Price and Ri, no one could have known about this discovery. After arguments, Stanley suggests searching for another exit, prompting the group to descend into the mine. After wandering the underground tunnels for some time, they find a wooden bridge that appears sturdy. But when the group steps onto it, lights suddenly turn on, illuminating the Japanese rising sun military flag, and a propaganda song begins to play through the internal communication system, frightening the explorers. The group speculates that either someone is still down here or their enemies have followed them, as there's no way a generator could operate for over 80 years. One consolation remains. This indicates the presence of a second exit. They continue exploring the seemingly abandoned Japanese base and soon find storage rooms where protective suits are kept, which the captain initially mistakes for people. Photographs depicting scenes of violence against prisoners of war are also found there. Soon, the team locates a communications center. While the others examine it, Sergeant Snake, standing guard, notices a mysterious figure in a hazmat suit and gas mask watching him. However, when he turns around, the figure has vanished without a trace. Meanwhile, Ri examines a map on the wall and realizes that this island was a position of the Japanese army in 1945. Specifically, it was occupied by Yamashita's units. Stanley understands that it wasn't just the gold that brought Price here and urges him to be honest since their lives are now intertwined. Something is clearly wrong with this place. It's not a typical bunker or a bank vault. Moreover, the photographs they found turn out to be medical images. Against Price's wishes, Ri reveals that a secret medical unit operated here, using the bunker as a research center to study chemical and biological weapons. The Japanese experimented on prisoners of war as test subjects. The mercenaries are outraged by the deception as they were hired as guards, not fighters. This changes the cost of their service. Price insults Stanley, who lunges at him, but the captain intervenes to stop the fight. The group continues forward, and as they move through the mine, figures in protective suits silently follow them, unseen. Soon the team discovers a room that was once used as a barracks. Ario is laid on the remains of a bed, after which the captain orders everyone to stay there while he and the sergeant search for another way out. Price protests, fearing that the captain will find the gold first. In the end, Ree, Stanley, and the mercenary Joko stay with the wounded man, while the others leave with the captain. While resting, Ree engages Stanley in an open conversation. He shares that during his service in Afghanistan, he got into a petty fight and suddenly realized that he could kill any person, regardless of their guilt. It terrified him to know he had lost his humanity. That's why he left the army. Meanwhile, the captain's group discovers a room that once housed Australian prisoners of war. Back in the barracks, the wounded Ario suddenly hears strange noises coming from under his bed. He lifts himself up and sees the ground beginning to shift. He doesn't have time to call for help before a monstrous creature drags him underground. Joko rushes after him. Stanley and Ree also descend into the tunnel but lag slightly behind the mercenary. Joko hears sounds of movement but doesn't see the strange masked creature fleeing through the tunnel. At the same time, Ree finds Ario's body atop a pile of human bones. The young man is already dead and nothing can be done for him. Suddenly they are attacked. Meanwhile, the captain's group finds medical records that describe, in detail, the experiments conducted by the Japanese in the bunker. Jars containing preserved human body parts stand nearby. At the same time, Joko stumbles into an underground chamber filled with human remains, including the grotesquely mutilated body of a pirate. He kills one of the masked creatures, but others appear at the sound of the gunshot. Losing his rifle during an attack, he fights one of the monsters hand-to-hand. The mercenary barely manages to defend himself, but after running out of pistol rounds, he is quickly killed by the creatures. Meanwhile, Ree and Stanley are captured by a figure in a gas mask, a Japanese soldier who refuses to acknowledge that the war is over. Stanley manages to disarm the soldier. When they remove his mask, they discover a strangely altered man. Ree tries to explain the reality to him, but he refuses to believe her. The woman then shows him a video on her iPad of Japan's surrender aboard the USS Missouri, which breaks the soldier. It turns out there were originally 2 of them here, and his comrade had long urged him to abandon the post and return to civilization, but he killed him instead. Meanwhile, the captain and sergeant discover that the door they entered the medical lab through is now sealed. Suddenly, one of the creatures attacks Price, wounding him. The captain shoots the monster, but it has no effect. The creature advances on the captain until the sergeant kills it with a makeshift spear. They administer aid to Price, but his wound is serious. At the same time, the Japanese soldier reveals that for years they guarded this place. When communications were cut off, his comrade wanted to leave and surrender to the victors, but he killed him instead. He also explains that many prisoners were turned into monsters here. Meanwhile, Price, regaining consciousness, helps the captain examine the strange creature and reads on its mask that it belonged to a 24-year-old Australian. This means it was a prisoner of war, but how, after all these years? The Japanese soldier explains that the gas, which Unit 731 experimented with, drove the prisoners insane and transformed them into monstrous beings. He and his comrades were injected with the gas as well, under the assurance that it would keep them young and healthy. But this is the result, though the scientists' intention was to create super soldiers. However, this was not their final experiment. They perfected the formula and created their ultimate masterpiece, the Guardians of the Empire. Meanwhile, as the captain inspects the laboratory, he finds a hidden compartment where mutated remains are crucified on the walls. Nearby, syringes filled with a golden solution are scattered. The gold, it turns out, was the foundation of the experiments. Price is deeply disappointed by Yamashita's gold, while the sergeant laughs at him. At the same time, the Japanese soldier admits that there is another exit leading to the surface, and he is willing to show it to them. Ree doesn't fully trust him, but they have no other choice. Meanwhile, the captain and the sergeant attempt once more to open the doors of the laboratory while Price and Su Ling discuss their predicament. Realizing they cannot leave empty-handed, the pair steals one of the syringes containing the golden formula, knowing it could fetch a fortune as a biological weapon on the black market. At that moment, the doors open, and the mercenaries discover a sanctuary filled with dozens of creatures clad in samurai armor, soldiers of the Japanese Imperial Guard who had been injected with the same mutagenic compound, transforming them into guardians of the Empire. The monsters immediately advance, wounding the captain. He orders Price and Su Ling to run while the sergeant stays behind, trying to hold off the Imperial Guards, though he is severely injured in the process. The captain and Price pry open a ventilation grate and he commands the pair to jump down. He then returns to assist the sergeant but arrives too late, seeing him die before catching up with Price and Su Ling. They navigate through the underground tunnels and eventually stumble into the cave where Joko was killed. There, the creatures attack them, forcing the group to fight back with sharp bones of their fallen predecessors. The three manage to escape and accidentally discover a room where Stanley, Ri, and the Japanese soldier are sheltering. The men barricade the tunnel, though they know it's only a temporary solution. Price's condition deteriorates further, and the women try to help him. The captain struggles with the loss of his soldiers, though Stanley tries to comfort him, reminding him that they knew the risks of this job. Still, no one could have anticipated what they would face here. Now they must try to find a way out. While the others debate their next move, Su Ling, desperately trying to save Price, injects him with the golden formula they stole from the laboratory. At that moment, the Imperial Guards break through the tunnel. The group flees, but the Japanese soldier stays behind to hold off the enemies and sacrifices himself. Meanwhile, the guards find the mutated prisoners and remove their masks, turning them into their allies. The survivors desperately attempt to escape through the tunnels, but Price's condition worsens and he can no longer walk. A creature catches up to them and attacks Stanley, but Ri comes to his aid, smashing the monster's head with a rock. During the chaos, Su Ling drags Price into a room and locks the door behind her, leaving the captain, Stanley, and Ri trapped in the corridor. Realizing the woman won't reopen the door, the three flee further into the tunnels, only to find themselves constantly encountering the guards. They manage to close the door behind them, but they lack the strength to hold it. The captain orders Stanley and Ri to save themselves, staying behind to face the guards. Meanwhile, Su Ling drags Price toward an exit, where daylight and trees are already visible. In the depths of the mine, the doors finally give way, and the captain dies heroically, fighting to the last breath. Ri and Stanley fall into the water. At that moment, Price rises, and Su Ling, relieved, believes he has recovered. But the man has been reborn under the effects of the formula and kills her. Ri and Stanley escape the mine through a system of underwater tunnels, but the Imperial Guards pursue them closely. Only Ri manages to emerge from the tunnels. Exhausted, she reaches the shore, only for a guard to rise from the water and grab her by the throat. He turns to the lake, from which more guards are now emerging, then raises his sword above her. A solid zombie horror film. The production is well executed, the monsters look impressive, and the actors deliver decent performances. The idea of an alchemical serum based on gold is also quite interesting. The film's ending, however, is not its strongest point, as it leaves the resolution ambiguous. The Imperial Guards and zombies have escaped into the world, but what happens next? That remains anyone's guess.